Now that Dominik Mysterio is heel, we'll be taking even more looks at some possible theories involving him. We'll also take a look at the Women's Tag Team Championships and much more. Let's start things off with Dominik Mysterio. When we last discussed Dominik's heel turn, we went over all the events that led to that very moment at Clash at the Castle. Just so many weeks of Dominik being pushed aside by his father, Rey Mysterio, and having his father constantly taking Edge's side over his own son's side every single time. All that on top of everything else Dominik was frustrated about just built up to that big moment. But now that he's a heel, what other directions could he possibly go in? We previously went over the idea of Dominik joining the Judgment Day because they loved what he did, and maybe they can try to recruit him again. But what if Dominik stayed solo? What could happen here? Well, the most popular topic for when it comes to Dominik has always been the idea of him wearing a mask in the ring. Is it going to eventually happen or not? Rey Mysterio teased the idea that Dominik would wear a mask one day in the future several times, but that they just didn't know when it would happen. The obvious fan guess and theory was that when Rey Mysterio retires, he would take the mask off and literally put it onto Dominik's hands to continue to wear and keep the family legacy going for possibly another 20 plus years. And that was a good theory. Dominik would finally get the mask after his father retires, and now his father would find him worthy enough of wearing the mask after everything he's done over the last few years. But that direction is sort of impossible now because of Dominik's heel turn. The heel turn basically scratches that passing down of the masks theory right out. A much more darker theory for Dominik getting the mask was one that we talked about a while back, and that one is still possible. This theory was the idea of Dominik turning heel on Rey Mysterio, defeating Rey in a singles match, and then forcefully ripping and taking the mask right off Rey's head. So instead of it being passed down peacefully through Rey's retirement, Dominik would instead be basically stealing it from his father and wearing it right away as a way to attract even more heel heat for his heel character. So that theory is still technically on the table. Dominik would take out his father during a match, and maybe he comes to the realization there that after pinning, he should be the one representing the family legacy, and how he maybe doesn't view Rey as being worthy enough to wear the mask. It's sort of like a prince and an old king. There probably comes a day where the prince just thinks he'll do a better job as the new king, and maybe that's sort of the mentality that heel Dominik could have towards his father. Maybe he does feel like Rey was holding him back this entire time, how he believes that Rey's best days are behind him, and how he wants to lead the family legacy into the future. That's definitely a great possibility. Or on the flip side, maybe Dominik wants nothing to do with his family. Maybe he's just so tired of being known as Rey Mysterio's son that he just fully wants to stay away from the family mask. Maybe he'll come up with his own mask design if that's the direction he'll go in. So that may be some great directions to take heel Dominik in. It's obviously way too early to tell when we actually might see that Dominik Mysterio versus Rey Mysterio match. Maybe it'll happen at an upcoming event, or maybe they'll hold that off until WrestleMania. A father versus son match of this caliber would most definitely be big enough for a spot at WrestleMania. And if the plan is to keep Dominik growing as a heel in the future, then what better way to make it happen than by having him retire his own father through a beatdown of a match and forcefully stealing the family mask? That sounds like a great way to get fans to fully go against Dominik for tarnishing his father and his legacy in that sort of fashion. So it definitely is interesting. Everyone was waiting for heel Dominik, and he's finally here. So hopefully we do get to see some great things from this new heel version and persona for Dominik. Let's take a quick look at everything going on with Toxic Attraction and the Women's Tag Team Tournament. Mandy Rose made history by unifying the NXT Women's titles with the NXT UK Women's title, the first ever superstar to hold both of these titles at the same time. So the legacy of Mandy Rose and this great run that she's on just continues to grow. But for her other faction members, Jacy and Gigi, things are slowly coming back on track again. When Nikita and Zoe couldn't compete in the tournament, Gigi and Jacy were called up to SmackDown as a last-second replacement and won that tournament match. But as it turned out, Gigi was reportedly concussed during that match, and they were forced to be removed from the tournament. If Gigi and Jacy stayed in the tournament, chances are that the finals could have been a huge matchup of Toxic Attraction versus Damage Control. But that unfortunately didn't happen. And we've been talking about all this storyline drama with the women's tag team titles. Aaliyah and Raquel didn't pin the legal competitor. Damage Control was robbed. Sasha and Naomi never lost their titles, and now Toxic Attraction probably feels like they're owed an opportunity as well for the titles. But reports also claim that there was never any indication to call Toxic Attraction up this soon. That was simply just an emergency backup plan when they showed up on SmackDown. So there is a bit of confusion there right now. Are Gigi and Jacy going to remain in NXT again? Or will they be coming over to the main roster without Mandy Rose for now? Gigi and Jacy also recently hinted at the idea of unifying the women's tag team titles, which also was an interesting idea. The Toxic Attraction leader, Mandy Rose, is now a unified champion. So similar to what we saw with the Bloodline, does that motivate Gigi and Jacy to go out there and try to unify some pairs of the tag team titles themselves? Could all Toxic Attraction members be holding double titles in the near future? It was a very interesting tease by Toxic Attraction. And with the rumors that the WWE draft isn't happening until after WrestleMania 39, maybe Toxic Attraction does have a few more months together in NXT. The scene right there with the main roster women's tag team titles is pretty loaded up with several teams, drama, and story. So maybe WWE could afford to hold off on Toxic Attraction full call-up for now. Especially if Sasha and Naomi will return soon. Maybe you can let those returns rock out for a bit and then call Toxic Attraction back up once things start to settle down again in the women's tag team division. Toxic Attraction will have a great storyline reason to come after the titles when they eventually come back up to the main roster. They picked up a win and were well on their way to reaching the finals. So maybe they feel like they were robbed too and didn't have a fair shot to continue advancing through the bracket. So that'll probably be their argument when we see them once again on the main roster. So we'll have to pay attention to that situation. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.